This video is a story created by the SkyBL channel. All characters and events are fictional and intended for entertainment only. When crafting a profoundly tragic villain, does the author ever feel even a hint of pity or remorse for them? Of course not. I typed the response. My tone indifferent, a character that drives the plot forward, a stepping stone on the protagonist's path to greatness. Such a one doesn't deserve pity. Why would there be any remorse? Then came a day like no other. I was suddenly linked to a system, tasked with redeeming the major antagonist I'd written. I looked at the villain in the cold palace, his face dark and fierce as he shoved a servant into a well. I stood behind a tree, glancing up listlessly. Redeem what? System, the villain you wrote. What villain? System, clearly frustrated. Redeem the antagonist you wrote. I slowly nodded, then asked, why should I redeem him? System. Because you've already passed away in the modern world. Only by redeeming the villain you created can you come back to life. I thought I must have misunderstood. Died suddenly, me? System. Yes, I said seriously, I have no interest in redeeming him. Just send me to the path leading to the afterlife or by the bridge of forgetfulness. I'd appreciate it. The blue glowing orb trembled slightly, as if it had never encountered a host who ignored such an opportunity. It circled around me once and spoke with a chilling tone. If you don't complete the task, your soul will be forcibly erased. I asked calmly, so I'd vanish completely, no afterlife, no rebirth. The system thought it had scared me into submission and nodded with satisfaction. Yes, I replied with a calm expression. Then let it be. Seeing that I truly had no desire to survive, the system yawned lazily and even tapped idly at a hole in the tree trunk. It snapped angrily as the author, you've written Ethan into such a tragic fate. Don't you feel even a bit of pity? I half closed my eyes and said, I'm the author. I can write however I want. What's it to you? Besides, you've got the wrong person. You should look for Ethan's fans. Those who dream about him or obsess over him, there are plenty of them in the comments section. They'd probably jump at the chance to save the villain. Recalling the stormy chaos in the comments section, a hint of mockery tugged at my lips as I glanced sideways at the teenage antagonist, the dark eyes gleaming with open malice. Besides, don't you know what kind of person I've written? The tree I was leaning against looked flawless on the outside, but its trunk had long been hollowed out, giving off a smell mixed with moldy dampness and something cloyingly rotten, just like the strikingly beautiful figure not far away, whose outward charm concealed a mind built from bones, rotting flesh, pus, and poison. He doesn't need redemption at all. The system snapped. So, are you going to do this task or not? I said wearily. No, I don't want to stay in this world anymore. Just end me already. The system shot back. Defeated, even if you refuse, you still have to remain here until the task period ends. The deadline is 3 years. I said slowly. 3 years. I looked down at myself, wearing a pale yellow jacket and linen pants, sandals on my feet. My messy short hair fell across my eyebrows. Nothing like the long locks everyone wore in ancient times. It was exactly how I dressed before I came here. I turned my head. The peeling, cracked palace gate creaked in the wind. The bronze ring had turned a greenish hue from rust. Weeds over half a man's height grew between the steps. Webs clung to windows and eaves, and the tiled floor was cracked. The entire cold palace exuded a sense of decay and desolation. So, does this mean I have to survive for 3 years in a harsh and unforgiving ancient world, without even a proper identity or official records? Just to get back? It was too much to bear. The young man sat by the well, chewing on a tuft of dogtail grass, his mind darkened with percent of negative influence. His striking eyes gleamed with a twisted, malicious satisfaction. I watched the scene coldly, not revealing myself, nor speaking up to stop it. The system said, if you're willing to redeem the antagonist, there might still be a chance. I didn't hesitate before refusing. In an instant, my vision and awareness plunged into darkness. I groggily opened my eyes, a sharp pain throbbing through my head. I took a minute to steady myself, glancing around the dark and cramped rental room, then let out a quiet sigh. It must have been just a dream. Why would I have such a dream? I stood up from the chair, accidentally brushing the mouse, and the computer screen suddenly lit up, displaying white text on a black background. Ethan is dead. This is how it ended when the villain couldn't defeat the hero. Those close to him gradually turned away due to his ruthless actions, joining the hero's side in opposition. In the end, the villain met a tragic fate. I thought back to the moment in my dream when I was dying, seeing the system's stunned expression, and covered my face, unable to hold back a laugh. Laughing so hard that I suddenly started coughing violently. Each word came out between clenched teeth, laced with deep-seated resentment. Redemption? Why should he be saved? That was entirely his own doing. Self-inflicted me? A cold, smooth voice echoed, and the door had been opened without me noticing. In the shadow, a slender, tall figure leaned against the doorway, dark hair neatly tied high with a jade crown, faint traces of a crimson robe visible beneath the dim light, his lips curling into a half-smile. I narrowed my eyes and reached out, flicking the switch with a sharp click. The whole small room flooded with light. The man's strikingly exquisite face came fully into view, a faint tear-shaped mark at the corner of his eye adding an alluring touch. His features had matured completely, exactly like the antagonist I'd just seen in the Cold Palace, but as a young man, chasing me to kill me, an azure-colored orb, identical to the one from my dream, appeared out of nowhere and landed on my shoulder, making me wince slightly. The system trembled, glancing at my clearly modern-style room. Thanks, Ethan? How did he even get here? I shot it a cold glance, expression blank. Forget him for now. How did you end up here? So that wasn't just a dream after all. The system was stunned. You really thought that was just a dream? I was honest. If this isn't a dream, it'd be better if I were dead. I don't want to live in ancient times, nor do I want to redeem some villain. I let out a regretful sigh. Too bad I didn't manage to die. Seeing us chatting as if no one else was around, Ethan patiently waited until we finished, then looked at me with the same gentle smile. I heard you're the one who created me. Oh, right. I almost forgot about you too. I picked up my phone and tapped into the dialer screen, about to press 3 numbers. The system asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm calling to report a trespasser." Someone broke into my home. Bang! My lower back hit the corner of the table, and I winced from the sharp pain. I didn't notice when my phone was taken. It was now in Ethan's hands. Ignoring the pain in my back, I reached out immediately to get it back, but he flashed me a bright smile instead. I couldn't find words to describe that beauty. I felt like a small spark went off in my mind with a sudden burst, and I froze for a second before feeling a sharp twinge in my wrist. The young man gently released my wrist, his voice innocent. "I don't like it when people take things that belong to me. How did my phone become yours? Thief, bandit, shameless." I stared at him darkly for a few seconds, using my left hand to feel the twisted wrist on my right, checking the joint alignment before giving it a quick tug. Push and twist. There was a sharp crack, and the wrist joint snapped back into place. I broke out in a cold sweat from the pain. This rotten world. No one knows Ethan's stubborn nature better than me. Chances are, I'll never get my phone back. Anyway, there wasn't anything important in it, so I'm not bothering to fight for it. I lowered my gaze and moved my sore wrist slightly, speaking with a calm tone that carried just a hint of emptiness. "If it's yours, then take it. Have a nice day." He frowned, clearly displeased. "You haven't answered my question yet," I said. "What question?" Ethan smiled warmly and repeated again. "Are you really the one who created me?" I tapped the computer boldly, and the screen lit up once more. The words appeared on the screen one after another. "Ethan is dead. He died from being pierced by countless arrows. Look, not only did I create you, but I also decided your fate." I made no effort to hide my feelings toward him. The system vanished in fear, but a mechanical voice filled my mind with alarm. "Are you really ready to risk everything by provoking Ethan? This is the real world. Death here means true death." Ethan didn't show anger, but his lovely almond-shaped eyes flickered with a subtle ripple. "Why?" I said. "There's no reason. Just like how your ancient world storybook has heroes, villains, and protagonists, all given by the creator. You're no different. You were born from my pen, and naturally, you're the antagonist." I suddenly stepped forward, closing the distance, and Ethan didn't back down. Our breaths nearly mingled. His almond-shaped eyes reflected my expression, clearly showing someone laughing with cruelty and disdain. Without me, you wouldn't even have the chance to stand before me now. Do you understand? The system seemed frozen. Host, why do I suddenly feel like you're the villain? Ethan smiled faintly. His long fingers rose and rested on my neck, slowly brushing over it. As if the next moment might break it, he nodded in agreement. You're absolutely right. Originally, I planned to see what kind of person my creator was. After seeing you, I intended to end your existence. No one can control my fate. I felt the coldness of his fingertips against my neck, as if a slimy, eerie snake was sliding across my skin, my heart racing with a mix of fear at being at someone else's mercy and a shiver of nervous excitement. But I've changed my mind now. Ethan watched calmly as my expression began to shift, saying, I find you quite interesting. I'd like to stay with you. I stared in shock. Stay with me? Where would you eat, sleep, and live? Ethan, where you eat, I'll eat. Where you live, I'll live. Where you sleep, I'll sleep. I fell silent. My single room in the city's village was barely 20 square meters. Just a bed, a wardrobe, a small refrigerator, a desk and chair set with my writing computer on top, plus a 3-square-meter kitchen and a 2-square-meter bathroom. There wasn't even a sofa, completely bare and simple. Then I thought about my bank balance, which hadn't even reached 5 digits, plus the rent due next month and this month's utility bills. Now you want me to take care of another person. I thought this was worse than being killed. I can't afford to support you. Ethan glanced around my room and nodded in agreement. It's clear you're struggling. Your place isn't even as big as the bathhouse in the Lonely Palace. He wanted to harm me, but that didn't shake me. Now I really lost it. I should have written him to stay in that rundown old palace for life. No, sadly, I realized even if someone lived in a cold palace, the total area would still be larger than my tiny room, and he'd have an entire overgrown courtyard out front. I said, there's only one bed here. If you want to sleep at night, you'll have to lie on the floor. Ethan looked at me with a quiet sorrow. That strikingly vivid face of his stirred something deep inside me. Even though I'd poured countless feelings of anger and frustration into my writing about Ethan, that face was one I'd painted with care, and it fit my taste perfectly. My throat moved slightly as I swallowed, then fell silent. He spoke softly. Can't I just sleep with you? After all, we're both men. I said nothing, just fell silent again. Having this handsome guy sleep on the floor would really be unfair, but sharing a bed with me, stop. That's enough, I said. First, give me back my phone. Ethan, not going to call the authorities? I glanced at him. Do you even know what calling the police means? Ethan, I don't know, but my gut tells me it's not a good thing. Your instincts are surprisingly sharp. I didn't feel like explaining. If you're not going to hurt me, why are you following me? Why can't you just go back to your own world? You've made it here already. I don't believe you're bound by the plot. Do whatever you want over there. Ethan looked at me with a half smile. Don't you fear I might harm your main character, Daniel? I spoke coldly. I don't really care much about my own life, so do you think I'd feel sorry for a fictional character? Ethan let out a soft scoff. How heartless. Then he sighed helplessly. But I can't go back now. After I woke up, I used Daniel's life to convince the cosmic force to open a time rift and brought myself right to your doorstep. Now I can't reach out to that force anymore. Ethan's expression grew soft, almost sad. I only know you here. Me. Hearing him keep saying me, I felt a vein twitch on my forehead. Back when I wrote it, I didn't think much of it. This was just how a royal figure from ancient times would speak. But this is the modern world. The first thing you need to do right now is change your way of speaking. Ethan, I said, switch to using Einstead. Otherwise, people around here will think you're a total idiot. Ethan finally remembered to ask, oh right, what's your name? I said, Alexander. The N from language, the soon from rugged, the system, silent for a while, quietly reappeared. Hey, host. Since you refused to complete your mission in that world and came back here, and now Ethan's showing up in this one, well, that's not my responsibility. I'm outta here. Okay? Get lost. So cold-hearted. Meter bed is still too cramped for 2 men who are both around. Meters ta. When he turned over, his nose nearly bumped into my forehead, and his hand accidentally brushed against my waist. Okay, that was fine. but it felt like he needed to confirm what part it was, then gave it a little squeeze. I snapped. "Where do you think your hand is?" Ethan finally pulled his hand back, muttering unhappily, "Who made this bed so small? Why didn't you get a bigger one?" I rolled my eyes. "Because it's the landlord of this rental," meaning the owner of this room who provided the bed, not me. Ethan stared in disbelief. "You're actually this broke? You can't even afford a larger bed." Sometimes I think people don't turn bitter for no reason. Living through hard times before was one thing, but now they keep mocking me over money. I shot back, annoyed. "You can sleep however you want. There's plenty of space on the floor. Why don't you just sleep there?" "Ethan, the floor's spacious. Sure you're okay with that?" I can't believe this. And so, the night passed in a haze of turmoil and frustration. The next day, I woke up with dark circles under my eyes. Ethan had returned my phone, and I checked how much money I had left. There wasn't even 10,000 yuan. Broke, truly broke. Ethan had come into this world, and I couldn't just ignore him. If I let him out alone, he might get involved in serious trouble. I felt completely overwhelmed. I set this novel's premise as an ancient fantasy world, not a cultivation or immortal realm. No matter how skilled in martial arts, he can't overcome real firearms and ammunition. I warned him, "You absolutely must not kill anyone in this world." "Ethan, why?" I explained, "Because taking a life is against the law. You'd be arrested, sent to prison, and could face the death penalty." "Ethan, then just don't get caught, right?" I paused, unsure how to explain that surveillance is everywhere and forensic technology is highly advanced. So I only managed to say, "Sir, the times have changed." Suddenly I realized it was urgent to get him a phone, teach him how to use it, and help him understand this world. Ethan was wearing one of my t-shirts and a pair of jeans. Our heights were nearly the same, our builds matched closely, and the clothes fit perfectly. He sat on the edge of the bed with a high ponytail, smiling gently. Luckily, his looks held up well. There was no mismatch at all. I'm a novelist who doesn't need to work a job. So today I take him out to buy some new clothes and a phone. I took a bag of frozen dumplings from the fridge, boiled them, and that became our breakfast. Ethan didn't seem to mind at all. Back in the old days, when he was hungry enough, he'd eat anything. Even rats, with no car loan, no mortgage, and no family to support. I took him on the subway. You'd say take a taxi? No, taxis are too expensive. I can't afford to spend that much. Being broke hurts enough already. After stepping out, Ethan looked around with fresh curiosity at the modern world. People were moving back and forth. Vendors called out their goods continuously, and vehicles flowed without stop. It was bustling and vibrant. Many passers-by couldn't help but glance at both Alexander and Ethan with surprised interest. "Whoa, these two guys are seriously striking. Especially the one with the ponytail. He looks like he was shaped by divine hands. Even most women don't look this good. I prefer the one next to the guy with the ponytail, dark, brooding, and looks like he's got a deeply emotional presence. Such an elegant and striking young man. Are they internet celebrities or big stars? They're probably regular people. I've been into fandoms for years, and if someone with that kind of looks were a celebrity, they'd have blown up already. I wonder if these two handsome guys have girlfriends? Should we go ask for their WeChat?" I was wearing a hoodie today, and hearing the hushed whispers around me, I coldly pulled the hood up to cover my face. Ethan, on the other hand, seemed naturally at ease under all that attention. His lips curled into a soft smile, his almond-shaped eyes sparkling with charm, and just a light blink was enough to leave people spellbound. A few girls whispered nearby, "They don't necessarily need to have girlfriends, do they? Do you think maybe they could be together?" I stopped dead in the middle of the sidewalk. Ethan looked at me with a puzzled expression. I pulled out my phone and said, annoyed, "No more subway. We're taking a taxi." Alexander, curious, "Why do we need to hit the car? Do we have to use a stick?" "There's no stick here though." I was utterly worn out. You don't need to hit anything, and there's definitely no need for a stick. Just follow me and get in. Ethan obediently said, "Oh." We arrived at the phone store by taxi, and I quickly picked out a smartphone originally priced at with GB of memo. After bargaining with the salesperson for a while, we finally agreed on a price of just as I was about to pay. I noticed Ethan standing nearby, holding a foldable phone and tapping on the screen with his fingers. This morning I showed him how to use my phone, and he picked up the basics quickly. He could take photos, browse through albums, check the time and weather, use the search engine, and read ebooks. My eyes flickered in surprise. Then I heard Ethan say excitedly, "Alexander, I want this one." I glanced at the foldable phone with GB of memory priced at, and my expression twitched. You really know how to pick, going straight for the most expensive one in the shop. The salesperson instantly perked up, smiling warmly as they stepped forward. Now this gentleman has great taste. This phone may be foldable, but it's incredibly slim and lightweight. Just take a look. I forced a tight smile and said, "My own phone only costs around 2,000, and I've had it for 3 years already. You want one that's over 10,000? How about you just aim higher?" Ethan's confident expression dropped. He set the phone down with a soft sigh, his face showing disappointment and sadness as his lips moved slightly. "All right." In that instant, I felt a wave of disapproving stares from the shop staff and customers alike. It was as if they were silently saying, "If you're not buying, then why act so harsh towards someone so nice?" Still, seeing Ethan look so down and upset, though I knew he was just acting, I couldn't help but feel a pang in my chest. But I really don't have any money at all. All my savings combined are barely over 6,000. Do I really have to sell a kidney just to afford this? Seeing how troubled I was, Ethan gently took my arm and led me out of the store into a narrow alley beside it. He reached inside his collar, pulling out a beautifully carved jade pendant. He ran his fingers over it with obvious reluctance before handing it to me and saying, "I know you're short on funds. I won't be spending your money. Could this be pawned here?" My eyes fell upon the jade pendant in his hand. In the story I wrote, Ethan was raised without a father's care, and his mother passed away early. This jade pendant was the only keepsake left by his late queen mother. Back then, Ethan pushed that young servant into a well because he tried to steal this very jade. I lowered my gaze and took the pendant from him. Pale white and elegant, smooth to the touch, with flowing lines clearly showing it was no ordinary item. I sighed reluctantly and handed the jade pendant back to him, saying, "Never mind. Go inside first and see which color of the foldable screen you like. I'll figure out the money part." Ethan gave me a long look, then obediently walked back into the store. I opened my phone and stared at one of the contacts, hesitating for nearly a minute before finally pressing to call. The line connected quickly, and a refined, dignified voice answered. "Hello, Alexander." I gripped the phone nervously and called out his name. "Asher." I paused, my voice uncertain. This was my first time asking someone for money. "I need to borrow some money. Send me your bank account number." So I opened WeChat and sent him my account number. "Sorry, I might need." The next second, a notification popped up on my phone. "Asher sent you million yuan." Asher? Is that enough? I'd never seen so much money in my life. I swallowed hard, beads of sweat forming on my forehead. This is way too much." Asher gave a soft huff. "This money isn't free. Stop writing that failed novel of yours. Next month ST happens to be a Monday, so come to Jiang family to start work and repay me with your labo." I instinctively started to say no. Asher seemed to know I'd refuse, and called out my name sharply. "Alexander." I didn't say anything. "You're Alexander now, no longer experiment. We've all escaped, and this freedom is a new beginning. We should all live well. Dwelling on the past only leads to meaningless suffering. Go out more often, make a few friends, get some real-life experience. You'll find the world is still full of beauty." I said coldly, "I don't need friends." "Asher, you really are impossible to get through to." "I don't care. I know you've already taken the million. You're stuck working for me and..." Asher was being unreasonable. I know he's just worried about my safety, so he kept me close to watch over me. After thinking it over, I realized there was no real reason to refuse. After all, I've got a growing expense to take care of. I asked him, "How much is the pay?" Asher replied without hesitation, "Brother rate, 10,000 a month." I immediately said with a joking tone, "Young master, I'll definitely start next month." A chilling voice came through the phone. "Asher, why haven't you cut ties with all those brothers of yours yet? How many brothers do you even have?" Asher quickly replied, "Henry, hear me out. this isn't what it seems. Alexander, I'm kind of busy right now. Gotta go. Gotta go. There was a sharp click as the call ended. I quietly slipped my phone back into my pocket. After the money arrived, I walked into the store. Ethan mentioned he liked the red color of that foldable smartphone. So with $1 million in my pocket, I calmly started negotiating with the salesperson again. Salesperson, you could already afford a 10,000 yuan phone? Why are you still haggling? I didn't care. I'd save every 100 I could. Ethan watched our back and forth with clear interest. I said, if you sell it at this price, I'll buy it. If not, I'm walking away. The salesperson looked distressed and kept saying, just a little more, insisting the online store didn't offer such deals. Go check on your phone if you don't believe me. I said, add 200 more. I'm a regular customer. After all, I negotiated with the clerk to reach a compromise, settling on an average price, and managed to get it done smoothly. Then I took Ethan to buy a few sets of clothes. Finally, I called Asher to help sort out Ethan's identification documents. In modern times, phone cards and most apps require real name registration. Traveling by high-speed train or plane also demands an official ID, so being without proper documentation really makes life nearly impossible here. Asher. What? Say that again, I said awkwardly. The main villain from my novel has actually shown up in our real world. Asher, full of curiosity, said, really? Send me a photo so I can see. A faint sense of possessiveness made me hesitant, but he just sent me $1 million, and you know what they say. Accepting help means you owe someone, so I ended up snapping a picture of Ethan in his new shirt and pants and sent it to Asher. After looking at it, Asher sighed. He really does look like he doesn't belong in our world. Then came the next line. But he's not as handsome as Henry. I said, you two look exactly the same. Are you complimenting him or yourself? Asher. Haha, I said, you actually believe me? Asher declared firmly, why wouldn't I? Henry literally crossed dimensions just to find me. Shows how much he cares. Then Asher went on proudly with a dramatic story about their intense bond, saying they'd rather die together than live apart, and finally promised for sure that he could get Ethan's ID sorted out. I let out a quiet breath. Thanks for the help. I silently thought, these two really are both a little wild. They're perfect for each other, just don't go causing trouble elsewhere. Turning around, I saw Ethan connecting to my mobile hotspot and using the search engine. I walked over and glanced at the screen, noticing a list of recent searches. What does call the police mean? What is DNA? How can someone vanish without a trace? Why does a four-wheeled metal box on the road, called a car, move without being pulled by hand? What is a subway? How much would it cost to buy a subway system? Who are internet influencers and celebrities? What is a bank? Can you rob a bank if you run out of money? Fine. Let him get a better grasp of the world. No more questions like, do you need to hit a taxi with a stick? Again, sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a soft, dim glow across the room. The day had already begun. On the bed, beside me lay a warm presence, something I was still getting used to, yet not unwilling to accept. I gently traced the jade pendant Ethan had insisted on giving me last night. Its firm yet smooth texture stirred a quiet unease in my thoughts as I turned to look at his profile. Ethan lay on his back, his profile clean and well-defined, pale skin flawless, a high bridge to his nose, and a dark dot near the corner of his eye like ink dropped in water. Adding just the right touch, I stared at him quietly for a long moment. My greatest adversary, truly beautiful. My heart pounded against my ribs, wild and intense, as a twisted sense of excitement slowly grew in the shadows. Unstoppable. Damn, I really want to. A moment later, I turned my head back and closed my eyes, carefully hiding the brief flash of satisfaction and longing in my gaze. I have no intention of letting Ethan go out to earn a living. He was created entirely by me. I gave him his core personality, control over his past and future within the story, and every emotion he feels. His joys and sorrows, loves and hates. All drawn with my own hand. The computer in the rental apartment glowed quietly, this white screen with black text coming into view. This was where the villain of this story made their entrance. What name would suit this villain? I thought dazedly. His life has always been lost in darkness, just like mine. We sank into it together. Now that he has come into my world, everything about him should belong to me. Here, he knows nothing and recognizes no one, so he doesn't need work, socializing, family, or friends. Ethan is mine alone. 1-1. Ethan's identity documents had finally been approved. Then I got him a phone card and set up his WeChat account, while also taking him to the bank to open a personal account. Thinking about the luxurious life Ethan would lead as regent, where every aspect of food, clothing, housing, and travel needed to be top tier. I thought for a moment before transferring $900,000 to him to help him get started. After all these days of studying, he had already gained a solid understanding of the world's financial system and basic daily spending habits. $900,000 is an enormous sum for most people. Ethan's smile slowly faded as he said, "Alexander, where did you get so much money?" I replied, "I borrowed it from someone." Ethan asked, "How much did you borrow in total?" I answered honestly, $1 million. Ethan looked shocked. "Did you take out a loan from a high-interest lender?" I said, "No, I borrowed it from an old friend." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "You two are really close? He'd actually lend you that much?" I thought for a moment and said, "We were pretty close, true friends. After all, he was the one I'd been through terrible hardships with, the same person who shared my pain in the lab, endured injections and electric shocks. So desperate we even tried to end it together, only to survive." Ethan's expression twisted for just a second. A deep darkness flashed in his eyes, which he quickly suppressed with a strained smile. "That really is a close bond. But if he's so wealthy, how come you're living like this? Seems he doesn't care much about his friend after all." The attempt to sow discord was too obvious. I said flatly, "He's wealthy because he's the heir of Jiang family group. I'm just an orphan with no parents. What does his money have to do with me? I might have had parents once, but my childhood memories were completely destroyed during those years of experimentation. Nothing was left. But speaking of money, first, I did intend to work at Jiang Family Group to earn a living and support myself, but building wealth that way was simply too slow. Since I've decided to bring Ethan under my own influence, I naturally need to take good care of him. $10,000 a month. Not enough. Far from enough." I lowered my eyes. In that place, the researchers pushed our mental capabilities to the limit in order to test how well we could learn. We were forced to master a wide range of knowledge. Basic global languages were just the starting point. Among the survivors, each of us spoke at least 20 different languages, including but not limited to Chinese, English, French, Russian, Arabic, German, Portuguese, and Hindi, advanced quantum physics, topology, principles of gene editing, synthesis of chemical agents, financial concepts like foreign exchange hedging, stock market trading strategies, and cross-border arbitrage, psychology, behavioral science, sociology, painting, calligraphy, sculpture, various musical instruments, and medicine as well. We've touched on a wide range of fields: painting, calligraphy, sculpture, various musical instruments, even medicine, understanding the human skeleton, meridians, joints, and internal organs, knowing all critical points in the body, and mastering human anatomy. Just one of these skills, if used wisely, would be enough to make life very comfortable in this world. But I don't have that kind of wealth or lofty ambitions. But now that I have Ethan, I can't keep falling into such despair anymore. I lifted my head and said seriously, "I can take care of you." Ethan looked at the bare walls of the rented room, hesitated, and quietly expressed doubt. He sighed and said, "A talent scout approached me a couple days ago. He said my appearance would make me perfect for stardom. I heard being an entertainer here can bring in big money. Maybe I should try that first." Me, "Don't even think about it. Dream on. Don't you dare dream of becoming a star." His heart felt as if it were wrapped in cold vines, a wave of tightness rising up, mixed with jealousy and ungrounded fear. He was so radiant, yet he should belong to me alone. I didn't want to share him, not even a single glance. But then I realized the most important issue. I don't have any money. The lack of funds made it impossible to build even a basement, let alone afford advanced security systems or tracking devices. I've never regretted my past laziness and negativity so much, especially not having any money at all. Even though building wealth will take some time, I'd never let Ethan become a public figure. What's with the angry look? Ethan blinked his lovely, expressive eyes and playfully patted my waist, his tone teasing. I'm not really eager to either. But what can we do? We're broke. Just stay home and wait while I get us a bigger house. I stared at him coldly. Then maybe I'll go work instead. My face isn't bad. So you just stay put and wait for me to buy us a better home. Ethan's smile faded slowly, his expression darkening as he nearly clenched his teeth. I won't allow it. I stepped forward until my nose almost touched his cheek, our breaths mingling. A faint smile appeared in my eyes. Yet I pressed on. Then tell me, why exactly is that not allowed? A warm sensation suddenly brushed against my lips. I caught sight of his eyes, intense and full of longing, and the loose strands of hair at his temple gently brushed against my face, sending a faint tingling feeling. My heart gave a soft flutter as I gently pressed my hand against the back of his head, slowly returning his kiss. Ethan smiled softly and said, "My creator, this is the answer." He gazed at me with a deep intensity, and what he said left me stunned. I was struck by the realization that his thoughts mirrored my own. I could only urge him to face reality. "Come on, you don't have any money. There's nothing you can do," Ethan said. "I do have 900,000, right here." I was speechless. "Do you even want to check how much a home in our capital city costs? What could that amount actually get you?" With Ethan's picky taste, he'd never settle for a house way out in the suburbs, and anything near the city center. No, I'd rather not go into it. Just thinking about it makes me sad. Ethan froze in place. I pressed on. "And besides, that 900,000 isn't even mine. It's borrowed." Ethan went completely still. I sighed. Even the smallest amount can be a real hardship for someone determined to make it. Ethan was shaken to the core. He frowned, clearly annoyed. "You don't let me become a celebrity. So how am I supposed to earn money? Do you really expect me to go work on a construction site?" I smiled, feeling like a hunter who'd just seen their prized prey step right into the trap they'd carefully set. "How could I ever let you do something like that? Don't worry about money. I'll take care of it. The quickest way to build wealth is through stock trading." I hated and avoided everything from my time in the lab like it was poison, even though I knew that using just a tiny fraction of my abilities could bring me massive fortune. I still refused to do it. Now, I'm not alone anymore, no longer just living for myself and my own needs. I still have a refined antagonist to take care of. The knowledge buried in my mind finally cleared the dust, and for the first time since escaping the lab, I was able to bring it out. But the biggest issue right now is that I don't have enough starting capital. Since asking Asher for money too often wasn't a good idea, I bravely called another brother instead. The brother sounded drowsy and hoarse, like he'd just woken up. "Hey, Alexander?" I got straight to the point. "Oliver, I need some money." Oliver yawned. "How much?" I said. 5 million. Oliver replied, "Oh, send me your bank account number." "Oliver has transferred 5 million yuan to you." Oliver yawned again. "No need to pay it back. Anything else?" I cleared my throat lightly. "Nothing else, Oliver." "All right, I'm hanging up. I'm so tired." "Sweetheart, who were you talking to?" Another deep voice came through. "Oliver." "A brother. Gotta go now." The call ended. I checked my balance and still felt it wasn't enough, so I called another brother next. A calm voice replied, "Alexander, long time no see. Need something?" I hesitated a little. "Yes, I need to borrow some money, John." "How much?" I thought a few million more would be enough. 3 million, John. "Send me the account number." I sent it to him via WeChat. "John has transferred 5 million yuan to you." I was shocked and asked, 5 million, John? "I've sent you a bit extra. Don't worry about returning it. I'm tied up right now, so I'll have to hang up." Ethan glanced at me with an odd expression, slowly forming a question mark. He looked puzzled and asked, "Why are all your brothers so wealthy while you're this broke?" I said, "Well, he's involved in powerful circles and has a lot of influence." "Ethan, what do you mean by involved in powerful circles?" I said, "Just look it up online yourself. I don't know how to explain it." Ethan immediately pulled out his device and quickly searched. After getting the gist, his eyes lit up with excitement. "I want in on this too." I smiled and gently covered his lips, mumbling, "No, you don't. You really think life's that easy?" I received a fresh million and opened my computer, watching the colorful lines of the stock market. After careful analysis, I invested the money into several stocks I had been keeping an eye on. As for joining Jiang family, I mentioned it to Asher, explaining that I now needed to support someone, and working for him at 10,000 a month wasn't enough. I decided not to slack off anymore. I planned to start my own business once I had enough funds, Asher said with approval. Good job. Getting back on your feet is a great thing. Then I received another 500,000 transfer. Asher. Go for it, young man. Thanks, brother. Today, Ethan took me to view some apartments. He thought my current rental was too small. The sound insulation wasn't good either. The bed was also too small. Last time, we were kissing and things were getting close to progressing naturally. We both knew it was about to happen, and I didn't stop it, but Ethan stopped himself completely. He went to the bathroom and stayed under cold water for a long time. It was clear how much he disliked this rental place. When he suggested moving out, I instinctively said, "Right now, my rent is paid 1 month in advance with a deposit. If I don't stay for a full year, the landlord won't return the deposit." Ethan, how much is your rent per month? I said, 2,500. Ethan looked at me with a quiet, pointed expression. Alexander, are you really that worried about saving this little bit of money? After being broke for so long, it's hard to adjust. Eventually, I couldn't refuse Ethan and went with him to look at apartments. I didn't mind either way. I'd lived in dark, damp basements before, cramped rented rooms, even shared housing. If it hadn't been for Asher helping me back when I first left the lab, I might have ended up sleeping on the street. Over the past couple of months, Ethan had clearly grown accustomed to modern life, almost like he belonged in it. He never held back when it came to himself and had his eye on a quiet, well-lit apartment complex with strong privacy. A spacious, 200 square meter flat, complete with a walk-in closet, private dining area, home theater room, gym. Everything you'd need. The location was also excellent. The subway station was just over 100 meters from the entrance, and there were big shopping malls, schools, and hospitals nearby, but the price was extremely high. The monthly rent was 80,000. Even though the place was amazing, I felt like it was price gouging. Oh well, Ethan liked it, so that's fine. Signing the lease was all Ethan handling. I glanced at my phone where numbers were rapidly rising and dozed off on the side. After everything was settled, we moved out of the rental apartment and into this spacious loft, then spent an afternoon getting essential household items. 2 years later, that day, I just finalized a collaboration project with Asher, and after wrapping things up, I politely shook his hand. "Lucas, great working with you. Mr. Alexander, nice working with you." The man had elegant and refined features, always dressed in a white suit, calm and gentle like spring water flowing steadily. I couldn't help but reflect. Love truly has an amazing power. Before meeting his partner, Asher still had that graceful and gentle exterior, but there was always a sense that he might suddenly drop the mask and reveal something wild and twisted beneath, violently destroying everything in sight. Now he still had that charmingly reckless look, but he seemed far more stable than before. Still, it makes sense. None of us who came out of the lab were mentally well adjusted. Most of us were deeply troubled and obsessive, what you'd call dangerous minds. Since the collaboration's done, take your time on the way out. Another young man who looked exactly like Asher walked in with a dark expression. His eyes were sharp and cold. Clearly someone wild and untamed. No surprise he's named after fire. He's like a grenade waiting to blow at the slightest spark. His personality was completely opposite to Asher's. I said politely, "All right then, I won't disturb you too." Henry gave a quiet huff, pulled out a disposable wipe from his pocket, tore open the wrapper, grabbed Asher's left hand, and carefully wiped each finger one by one. The hand was the very one I had just shaken with him. Asher smiled warmly, letting Henry have his way, and even held out his other hand. "This one too," he said. Henry continued wiping it with a clearly annoyed expression. I gave a quiet laugh in my mind and walked away without looking back. Over the past 2 years, I finally gathered enough wealth to upgrade from a large apartment to a spacious villa. I got home. Just then, I saw Ethan in an apron cooking in the kitchen. My heart warmed up, and I started to move closer. Ethan turned toward me and gave me a slow once-over before asking in an unreadable tone, Did you finish talking with Henry about the collaboration? I nodded. Ethan smiled. Did you shake hands with him? Show me your hands. I casually extended my hand. Ethan reached into the nearby cabinet, grabbed a bottle of alcohol-based disinfectant spray, and sprayed both of my hands vigorously. When it comes to possessiveness and control, sometimes I have to admit he outdoes me. I walked toward the dining table. Why are you cooking today? Where's Sophia? Sophia's son got married, so she took a few days off. That's nice. What are we having today? Coca-Cola chicken wings, steamed fish, salted and pepper shrimp, pork ribs with lotus root soup. Extra chapter, Ethan's original world's divine princey. Stay calm. Please stay calm. I was on the verge of tears. The main character is the fate core of this world. If you kill him, the entire realm will collapse. I was terrified he'd kill the protagonist, so I kept stalling for time while breaking out in cold sweat, using up massive spiritual energy to open a pocket dimension and borrowing a small system from higher-ups, pulling the author's consciousness of this world, whose novel powers its existence, into a temporary space where young Master Ethan was still a teenager. I've heard many authors lately travel into their own stories to redeem their villains, and the success rate is nearly. Afterward, the villain would wholeheartedly focus on developing a bond with their author, and the villain's darkness level kept dropping again and again. Now, if this Ethan gains memories of being warmly embraced by younger Ethan, he'll surely spare the main character. The author gave a cold, dismissive glance at the villain they'd created and refused to offer redemption. I was utterly stunned. This isn't at all how I pictured it. I was out of ideas. I dropped to my knees and sobbed toward Ethan. Please, I'm just a working deity keeping this world running smoothly. The blame belongs to the right person. Go find the creator behind your life's hardships, which is the author of this story. Ethan slowly narrowed his eyes. Oh, he let out a slow smile and tossed the main character aside. That's actually a pretty good idea, seeing a chance for resolution. I quickly activated the time portal. Wait just a moment. Let me check which world your creator is in. I'll send you over myself. Go cause trouble for your creator, but don't come back to bother us anymore. Bye-bye. Never see you again. Extra chapter ET. Before meeting the creator, I had thought of dozens of ways to get back at him. When I looked up, I was surprised to find that the creator hadn't even bothered to close the door. I walked in with a calm and confident air. The room was a bit dim, but as someone trained in martial arts, my eyesight was sharp enough to see clearly. I saw a young man. He wore unusual clothing. His hair was cut very short, yet it did nothing to diminish his striking appearance. His skin was pale from lack of sunlight, his face finely shaped and elegant, but his eyes were lifeless, gloomy, cold, and filled with disdain for the world. The moment I saw him, I felt a strange sense of fateful entanglement, like we were destined to clash endlessly. Not even with Daniel, whom I've clashed with for half my life, did I feel anything like that. He didn't notice me at first, then seemed stirred by something, laughing and crying at once, saying I deserved what had happened to me. My hand suddenly itched, as if I wanted to choke him, but when he saw me, he wasn't afraid at all. He even dared to provoke me. I found it strange. How could he not know what kind of person I am? I'm ruthless and fierce. In my world, no one dares speak so freely before me. Did he really think I wouldn't hurt him? Well, I have to admit, he's quite handsome. He fits my tastes perfectly, and he's definitely interesting. But I took the thing he called a phone. He resisted briefly, then gave in. When I said I'd kill him, he barely reacted, but when I mentioned his house was small, his bed tiny, and that even my palace's bathhouse was bigger than his whole place, his usually dull face suddenly lit up with fury, as if he wanted to fight me right then. Oh, so that's it. He can't stand anyone saying he's poor. My creator is named Alexander. Alexander. I repeated it twice. Such a pleasant name. This morning, he taught me how to use a device called a phone, showing me how to take pictures and search things online. Then he said we'd go buy one together. I started to feel that this world was kind of different from mine. When we got out onto the street, I became even quieter. Alright, compared to my world, it wasn't just different. It felt like there was no connection at all. Metal boxes were moving swiftly without any horses or oxen. Towering glass buildings reached high into the sky, and men and women walked openly down the streets in revealing clothes. On top of one of the glass towers was a huge glass panel that shifted with changing light and color. I stared in wonder, curious about this strange new world around me. The people nearby kept glancing at both Alexander and me, whispering quietly among themselves as they did. I really like that foldable phone. It looks more premium than the others, but Alexander couldn't afford it. I decided to take my mother's jade pendant to Alexander and pawn it, just to see how much money I could get. Though I was reluctant, the jade was ultimately just a worldly possession. I couldn't keep relying on Alexander's support forever. He was simply too poor to afford much. I worried we might end up without a home one day. He looked at my jade with a mixed expression, said, "Forget it," and told me to wait inside the shop first. I had no idea where he got so much money this time, but when he returned, he calmly bargained with the clerk. Would be acceptable. His eyes were lowered, his strikingly handsome profile catching the light. His black short hair glinted with hints of gold under the glow. His long, pale fingers rested on the white counter, revealing a slender wrist bone. As he leaned forward slightly, his delicate collarbone appeared faintly beneath his shirt neckline. "Hey young man, can you add a bit more? It's not that cheap." "No, hi." His voice was calm, the faintly rosy lips pressed into a graceful line. "He's so breathtaking." My heart felt like it was gently brushed by tiny little claws, and I couldn't look away. I just wanted to kiss him. I just want to hide away. Through the phone, I realized that committing murder here is really complicated. No, it's specifically this country where killing someone would cause serious trouble. I let out a quiet sigh. Not only can I not kill anyone, but I also have to follow the rules and laws. Then I'll just abide by the law. Seeing the police's weapon in the video, I knew I couldn't stand a chance against such advanced technology. If only my world had guns. Then sweeping through enemies and uniting all 6 states wouldn't be just a dream. If Daniel keeps whining like that, I'd be tempted to deal with him once and for all. Seeing the penicillin in the video, I have to admit, I felt a strong sense of envy. If my world had access to it, that deadly outbreak wouldn't have claimed so many lives. And then there's this phone in my hand, capable of connecting me across great distances. I stopped thinking about it. I'd start feeling bitter if I kept going. I don't want to keep relying on Alexander forever. The money he used to buy my phone was borrowed, and this small apartment isn't suitable for anything I want to do. I heard that being a star in this world can bring in a lot of money, so naturally, the idea crossed my mind. I saw Alexander get unusually angry for the first time. "Don't even think about it." His eyes were filled with possessiveness and fury, as if he wanted to harm me. I blinked playfully, teasing him. "I'm not really eager to do it either, but what about our lack of money? Just stay home and wait for me to get you a bigger place." Alexander stared at me for a long moment, then said coldly, "Then I'll do it. My face isn't bad either. Just stay home and wait for me to get you a bigger place." The thought of him performing on stage in front of an audience, every move exposed under the spotlight, made my chest feel tight like a snake wrapping around it, filling me with anxious discomfort. Alexander belongs to me alone. No one else should come near him. I almost bit through my own teeth. I said darkly, "I won't allow it." He took a step forward, his nose almost touching my cheek, our breaths mingling. A faint smile appeared in his eyes, yet he kept pressing closer. "Then tell me, why not?" Alexander's lips moved gently, full of quiet hope and encouragement. I gave him my answer with a kiss, the way he looked when moved, so captivating. What should I do? My heart was pounding with joy. The one who created me should be with me. Why would he create me if he didn't care? He must truly like me. He really cares for me. I just want to keep him all to myself so badly. But what stands in the way of this? It's just not having enough money. Alexander doesn't let me try to become a star to earn money. It hurts so much. I really want to get involved in the underworld. I was born for a world filled with chaos and darkness. I have this strong feeling that I'd thrive in places where disorder and danger rule. Alexander forbade me outright, but I've always been stubborn and rebellious. I do exactly the opposite when told not to. Alexander looked at me calmly and said, "Ethan, bullets aren't something your martial skills can dodge, and even your body can't withstand explosions. Think about me. Think about our future, okay?" He said, "If I lose you, I'd break down completely." As he spoke, he could no longer keep up the calm exterior. He even began to cry, each tear falling like a heavy weight on my heart. Burning and bitter, I closed my eyes and gave in. I quickly changed my mind and canceled the flight to Southeast Asia, leaving John waiting. I realized Alexander knows so many things. Stock trading and entrepreneurship aside, he actually speaks multiple languages. How is that even possible? Back then, we went on our honeymoon abroad, traveling through about 20 countries, and we never needed a translator. As long as Alexander was around, communication wasn't an issue at all. It made me feel like a complete fool with my translation device in hand. Then there's this. In my world, I was fairly skilled at music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. And then I discovered that Alexander was too, and so on. His brother's company got involved in a serious incident, and Alexander used hypnosis to help the police get the suspect to reveal how they committed the crime. And when I went to the shooting range with him, he hit the bullseye every single time. Plus, one day I accidentally found out that his fighting skills were on par with mine. Even without inner strength, his speed and power made up for it completely. If he hadn't been willing to let me win back then, I wouldn't have stood a chance. I was completely stunned. It's unbelievable how talented one person can be. I just don't get it. If he had shown even a fraction of his talent, he'd have been surrounded by wealth and admiration long ago. How could he have been so poor before? And why was he always carrying such a heavy, gloomy air? I finally understand. I'm so furious I could scream. Staring at the stack of documents about human experimentation, my voice was low and hoarse, each word heavy with a cold, bitter edge. I bit down hard on my tongue as I asked, "What happened to the lab? What about the people involved in those experiments?" The person on the other end paused for a moment before saying, "The facility was destroyed long ago. Everyone directly involved in the experiments is gone. As for those high-ranking members of influential families linked to these experiments, they've mostly been dealt with by Asher and other survivors. Some fell from power, some passed away, others were left severely hurt. Not a single one got away, so no one's left for me to take my anger out on." I hung up the phone in silence, my expression dark. Beyond the burning rage inside me, there was a wave of heartache and confusion threatening to pull me under. All I wanted in that moment was to see Alexander. Just hold him close, kiss him gently. At 8 o'clock that evening, Alexander finally came home from work. He wore a gray suit, carrying the chill and dampness of night with him. He hadn't even had time to change his shoes yet. I rushed forward and hugged him tightly, as if I wanted to hold onto him forever, never letting go. Alexander nearly couldn't catch his breath. "Do you even know how strong you are? Ease up a bit."